Hi everyone, thanks very much for your patience. We'll get started now with today's webinar on a whole new level of collaboration. I'm Andrew Norrie, I'm the Commercial Director at 3D Repo. With me today I've got Bogdan Davidoff, who's our Customer Success Manager, and Matthew Osmond, who's our Head of Digital Twins. So today it's a really exciting webinar for us. We'll be looking at some of the new features and new workflows that are now available in the latest version of the 3D Repo platform. We'll start off, I'll give you a quick intro to 3D Repo. Most people on the call I think will be familiar with us, as a lot of you are existing users, but we do have some first time people with us today. So I'll just explain the platform very briefly and what it does. Bogdan will then take us through the new features that are available in 4.10 before handing over to Matt to look at some of the new workflows and integrations that are possible with this latest version. At the end, we will have some time for a bit of an open discussion and some questions, so please do use the live Teams platform to ask those questions directly to us, and we might, depending on when you ask them and when it feels right, we might do them as we go along, but we'll try and save most of it for the end for a bit of an open discussion. So just to briefly, one slide to explain 3D Repo. So 3D Repo is a BIM platform that accepts many different formats of BIM file and BIM data. We upload it to a central cloud-based repository where we store your data for you and allow you to access it in various ways. The first way of that is 3D Repo IO, which is our flagship product, which acts as a model federation and collaboration tool to allow multiple users to access their models via a web browser and collaboratively speak with each other and run various types of analysis. But more importantly, and probably the more exciting part, is the open API and all the integrations and different workflows that you can do by being able to access that data that's been put out there in open formats for you, to be able to pull that data down into various other tools to be able to analyze either the 3D geometry using some of our viewing capabilities, or even just the metadata involved in the model, and using that API to then feedback and even feedback into 3D Repo IO. And with this webinar today, this is the difference between our normal new features webinars that you might be familiar with, where we've in the past concentrated very much on 3D Repo IO and the new features that are being added. Today, Matt's also going to look at how the API has changed and some of the integrations can work a bit better, and some of the new things you'll be able to do via the API to enhance any integrations that you might already have or are planning to do in the future. So yeah, that's my really quick introduction. I'll hand over to Bogdan now, and I'll be keeping an eye on the questions, so please do keep them coming in. I suppose the first one that's probably going to come up is this being recorded, to which the answer I believe is yes, and we will get the recording out to everyone as and when it's been processed at the end of the webinar. But for now, Bogdan, I think it's over to you.
Thanks, Andrew. Just going to bring my screen. Okay, can you see that?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, everyone. Thanks for dialing in this morning. I'll just run through the latest set of features that we brought out in 3D Repo 4.10 and explain you how they work and how they can benefit you. So the main, obviously, agenda for this is collaboration, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve and improve. And I'll show you how this set of tools that we're trying to add to 3D Repo.io is creating that really nice workflow that people can utilize. And something that is becoming a norm right now is remote working, right? Not everyone can get in the same room, look at the same model, resolve things. And we want to still communicate with each other effectively, right? So looking at 3D Repo as a product, it's a web-based tool. So the number one problem that I resolved is that I can access my project data and models anytime, anywhere. So that's great. The next thing that we really looked at in more detail is just the way you communicate with others, right? We all find platforms like maybe Facebook or something else quite beneficial because everything sits in one place and you can just communicate with others when you need to and when you have time, right? So if you want to share a video, a photo, or a comment, you can do that. Well, why can't you utilize it in a project that has some BIM data and it's due to go in construction or maybe make a design change? So we can communicate it effectively also, right? When you log into a platform, obviously there's a notification center. We can scroll through information in the sense of what's happening, when did it happen, is there a model being uploaded, or is there a new issue that I was assigned or something like that. You can mark things as read or maybe jump to those models directly. But if there's something that interests you and you just want to go and check it as well, you can jump straight to your project, right? Going through issues has been a laborious task on some of the projects that I worked, and people still suffering from poor communication, where they just send random emails, or people don't have access to models, or don't understand the markups you send them. Well, let's say we jump to, for instance, this federation and look at what kind of issues we have there. Not only are we trying to simplify it for you in the sense of understanding where the data is and what it is that others are trying to resolve. You can group it however you like, topic type, status, priority, who it is assigned to. You can filter the information further if you want to, maybe go for medium priority issues, or maybe include high priority issues as well. So the good thing in communication is trying to not just receive the chunk of information that others might send you an Excel report or something like that, but also being able to understand it, right? Not often you're able to articulate information to somebody who is not familiar with BIM, simply because the information is just too vast for them. You know, it's too much of it. It's unknown. They never worked with it. So we really looked into a sense of, okay, well, if people have access to this BIM data, how do we then help them communicate across that data? We actually improved our issue tracking as well. We added some additional features to it, whereby you can actually have a full conversation if you want to. You can see who it is working on it and what's happening, almost like, you know, your WhatsApp messenger or something like that. So if there's a full audit trail, right? If there's something happening and you're a project leader or somebody who comes on board and notices that something doesn't quite look right, instead of, you know, wasting time trying to get a meeting together or trying to communicate to your colleague, you can just easily do it in here and say, hey, maybe your colleague is working on it, but you're not sure. You can say, hey, what's the state on this, right? What happens is then you send that information and then the person actually gets notification. If you want to, you can remove it, but that person gets notified and they can jump straight to the issue, right? Not just a wild shout of you asking, hey, what's going on with this? Person doesn't quite understand that, right? They get notification, they know that you tagged them in exactly this issue or something like that. Obviously, ability to go through information really quickly is really important. You can just move things around back and forwards. You can see things that are happening here as well. But what's really nice is that, okay, well, maybe you kind of have this conversation going on and it's really great to communicate things, right? What if you just want to see it in context? How does it work? You can just jump straight to the model also if you want to. Once the actual viewer gets loaded, you'll jump straight to the issue that you just wanted to review, but not in 2D now, but in actual 3D environment. And what's nice is that, once again, everything is in here, and we kind of simplified it in the sense that it's easier for you to understand who is the individual that is addressing that issue, what is it that they're trying to resolve. You have a full audit trail in the sense of what's happened, when it's happened, and how has it happened. And on top of that, obviously, what's really nice is that there are also resources that you can share as well. So everything is centralized, everything is in a single place. You start looking around, you're navigating around the model, and you start communicating with your team. And for instance, if somebody, let's say, maybe mentions you in an issue, let's say an individual maybe added a comment to an issue or something like that, notification will obviously tell you that. So right now, I just realized that there's a new notification. Somebody maybe informed me of something, right? So I can jump to it either straight through from the model, or I can jump to it straight from the 3D Repo team space environment. So for instance, let's say I'm looking at demo project, right? I realized that there's a new notification. Somebody tagged me in the federation, right? I can click on that. I'll jump straight to the issue and I'll know what it is exactly the individual is asking. He might say, hey, Bogdan, have you got any GAs for this? And what is the issue in here? I can have a look at the actual screenshot. They might be saying, okay, well, there's an opening here. that we haven't quite picked up. What's nice is that, you know, you didn't have to dial in the same call, arrange a meeting, or sit there for an hour waiting for somebody to finish conversation and then try and address your issue. You can just do it in the comfort of your own home, whenever it suits you, whenever you have time, and have a proper productive conversation and try and resolve issues. Good thing is not only you have access to a tool that allows you to communicate, you also have access to the data that others that are presenting with you or to you, right? So for instance, if in this case, he's saying, okay, have you got any GAs or something like that? I will say, okay, cool, I do actually. I can go and jump straight to the resources and then say, maybe I want to share a PDF file with him or something like that. I can just drag and drop it in there. I can save it. If I want to point directly to that resource, I can then quote it and then say, hey, Kurt, here they are. Right, so here's all the information that he might want to look at. The next thing that's nice is that he has a direct point to the information that he requested and I shared with him. He'll get notification, he'll know, he'll jump straight to it. He can click on it. What's nice is that everything has hyperlink, right? So you don't have to send massive reports that people have to scroll through and then find it somewhere in the model. If you want to, you can just send them a link to this resource, right? If they have access to your project, they'll jump straight to it. If you want to, you can send them a link to this issue as well, right? You copy paste and it will jump straight to it also. And then they will be able to see the actual context of the model and the issue in one same place. So how you do it, it's up to you. You know, you can quote somebody's comments, you can reply directly to them, as shown in here. So I replied to him. I might want to say something else, or maybe upload another image or something like that. I can do that. It's all about being able to easily and quickly communicate some potential problems that you might have, right? So this is the way how we kind of revamped our issue tracking capability and ability to see the actual 3D and 2D environment together. Another real use case to some of the features that we added in the backend to issues and communication is being able to leverage other fields of information that you might have in your project. So for instance, let's have a look at this use case. Perhaps maybe we have a risk register, right? We have a risk register in here, and I just want to push it to 3D Repo and actually start linking it to 3D model environment. Let's say we create a new federation. This will be our health and safety info. And then I'm just going to drag and drop the model that we finally received from a designer or somebody. The next thing I can do is leverage the APIs and make use of the back-end improvements that we have created and the front-end improvements. All I'm going to say in here is, okay, well, in this case, what's the model ID in here? Okay, this is the model ID. And then I'm just going to go and say, okay, well, can we push this information to this model? And these are my risks. I can push them directly to 3D Repo. Now they have been created. Awesome. That's the result we get. The next thing I can do is I can then go and say, okay, let's have a look how they look in 3D Repo. I'm going to jump to the risks. Okay, here they are. Fantastic. But now I can leverage the two, right? I can either communicate to individuals here and then say, it's Andrew, right? Here is the info you wanted, right? I can share it with them, with Andrew or somebody. But what's really nice is that the next thing you can do is, for instance, if, let's say, I have 3D model now, right? I can perhaps jump straight to the actual model viewer and start tagging it. So if I click this, I can jump to the model. And the additional improvement that we've done is the ability to manipulate some of the information, such as your pins that might be associated with risks or issues. Also ability to edit images and also updating viewpoints. So we have inherited this information from elsewhere, right? It could have been data pushed from some other data source. Somebody may be using Airtable or Excel or some common data environment. It's entirely up to them where they bring it from. But what's the next thing is, okay, how can we link it to our 3D model, right? So now I have all the information in here and I can leverage the use of the new tools, right? I may have shared information and tagged Andrew and said, hey, here's the info. So he'll get notification. He'll be able to look and comment on this right away. But next I can actually say, okay, well, now I have this info in 3D environment. I just want to update my viewpoint. Yes, I want to add a new screenshot as well. And then I can say, I know where this issue that we have identified, and we can actually identify it in 3D environment. So you can do a markup if you want to. It's rather simple, you know, just do the things that you want to address the issue and then make it easier for others to understand. So once you've done that, the next thing that happens is that this issue is no longer the information that might have been batch uploaded, but people can then go and manipulate this information to enhance the experience of understanding the actual risk or an issue. So we have actually added a markup taken directly from the model. We have updated viewpoint. Then we can say maybe we want to add a pin so that they know where it is happening and how it is happening. So that's another improvement in the sense of like interaction with the actual issues and risks, is ability to manipulate some of the things. If you see something that's quite similar as well, you know, like with issues and risks, you can now actually clone it. So when you clone it, all the information is copied and you just say, I've identified exactly the same issue, but it could be maybe with this tractor, right, or excavator, whatever it may be. You can just do that, right? You just copied it and you can save that information and then it will remember the camera position. You can update viewpoint if you want to, maybe include the new one instead of the original screenshot. Maybe for this risk, you have a different kind of risk, well, looking risk, right? You can update that. But then what's happened then is, you know, we take in the existing information, we duplicate it rather quickly without the need to fill information out again and again and again. So that's one of the ways how we try and improve the workflows in 3D Repo. Another thing that's really important, actually, looking at communication is the ability to send the right information to other individuals without them wasting too much time looking for it. We further enhanced our views. And what I mean by that is you can predefine views and you can actually jump directly to them before you even load your model. So for instance, if I just want to look at, I don't know, let's say I want to look at one bedroom unit, right? Let's go and jump straight to it. So what's really nice is that that view gets loaded right away. We're not just looking at random location in the model, we're actually looking at specific view. This view has a hyperlink. So what's really cool is that you can just send this hyperlink to maybe your client, right? And then that client can then jump straight to the model and say, oh, okay, let's have a look at this one bedroom unit design. Yeah, okay, looking good. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. They might even spot something strange. They might say, oh, hold on, what's this socket just floating in the air? You know, they can address it to the team. They might have missed it. But what's really nice is that these views can also be driven by maybe specific data that you want to share, right? You can jump to view that is tailored to individual disciplines or maybe specific areas of the model. Like in this case, we're looking at core A of the building, MEP versus structure. Then we can look at core B of the building, MEP versus structure. You can even further enhance it by saying, okay, let's look at structure and MEP element, but I want to have my slabs transparent, right? These visual overrides are then stored in views and can also be driven by your results of data validation in groups, right? That's really cool because now you can maybe validate something, share it as a link to somebody, and they don't necessarily look at massive report of objects or screenshots that don't make sense. They can just jump straight to the data and then say, oh, okay, I see what you're trying to say. Yeah, it totally makes sense. And it's particularly useful for maybe big infrastructure projects. You don't want to be, you know, flying along the model for 5 minutes to navigate there, right? You just want to be able to click on the specific view, jump right there, and then identify what it is. So it's useful for maybe coordination design meetings or anything like that, so you don't waste time navigating that, or you can hold them remotely, right? You can just dial in and say, hey guys, let's jump to this view and let's all communicate. I'm going to open an issue and then we can add our comments and things, right? So you don't necessarily have to dial in and be able to be a prolific user of 3D models and the environment itself. That's pretty much most of the kind of visual improvements that you will notice in 3D Repo. But once again, it's all about enhancing the collaboration, how you can easily point people to the right issue, send them the right piece of information. And I'll pass it over to Matthew, who will actually show you some cool workflows of how you can utilize both the front end of these new improvements and also the back end, and how it can be used in various examples within the construction industry. So yeah, without further ado, it's over to you, Matt.
Thanks, Bogdan, and sorry about the little technical problem there. Anyone's got any questions based on Bogdan's presentation of the features, feel free to drop them in the chat that's on Microsoft Teams, and we'll cover them at the end. And likewise, if you've got any questions as I'm going through, drop them in there and we'll run through them at the end. I think we'll probably have about 15 minutes or so for questions. So the first thing I want to do today is talk about 4D, and then hopefully this will make sense in the context of what Bogdan was showing you earlier as well. So first of all, the existing 4D infrastructure on construction projects typically consists of a Synchro, a Navisworks, or in some cases even an i2. For those of you that have used these, they're quite complex systems. 3D Repo actually in the next few months is going to bring out an update where we actually integrate with Synchro so that we can take Synchro 4D simulations and show them inside 3D Repo. But in the meantime, at 3D Repo, the team here at 3D Repo have been thinking about, okay, what's next for 4D? What's in the middle? Because these tools are quite complicated. You typically have 1 or 2 people on your site using them at any one time, and they need quite a lot of work. But they are really powerful. I mean, we have partners at Freeform and Gammon that use these with great success. But what we've been looking at 3D Repo is we've been taking this concept of LOD, which a lot of you will be familiar with in the BIM world of, you've got your LOD 0 in this instance, which you might use for a planning application. You've got 1, which you might use for a cost plan. Then you might go to program development, and then you might go to construction. And we noticed we didn't really have the same thing for 4D. We didn't have that equivalent of pointing at something on site and saying, we're building that next. Getting a group around a set of drawings and saying, okay, well, we're going to do this slab and then this slab and then this slab. Your 2-week, 4-week look aheads sort of 4D that doesn't necessarily need the fly through camera, the detailed animations, and then also just the markup. So what is the 3D equivalent of a 2D drawing markup? And that's what we've been really focusing on with this release and trying to facilitate some of those workflows. So I'm just going to jump through to 3D Repo quickly. This is the right tab. So I've got the Building Smart Clinic MEP model. Some of you might recognize this. And what I've decided to do in here is I've very quickly used some of the tools that Bogdan was showing you earlier. So saving views with color overrides and model visibility and things like that, and then applying them to issues as 4D kind of snapshots. So if I jump down to where I was starting. So I've got an initial view of excavating the pits. So I've color coded them purple because that's what I've done, excavating the pad, sorry. Color coded them purple because that's the color that I'm using for excavation. And then I might flick through and say, oh, sorry, I've gone the wrong way. Okay, once I've excavated them, I need to do the formwork. So now they're orange. Once I've done the formwork, I might excavate the strip footings. And then at that point, I might do the reinforcement on the pads and then pour the concrete for the whole foundations. And then I'll move through. I'll do the formwork for the foundation walls, slabs, etc. And I can skip at any point, go back and skip to any point on this process. The camera can move as well, so I can zoom in and show the stair construction. Or likewise, I can go all the way forward and say, okay, well, what happens when I'm doing the formwork on the slab? We've already got the columns installed, or we might do the roof beams. And the great thing about this is each one of these has a hyperlink, as Bogdan mentioned. So it's not necessarily a strict 4D in the way you might be used to, but I can start to have a conversation around things. So in terms of this, the reinforcement here, I might take that hyperlink, switch over to Microsoft Teams. Okay. And then go down to my channel here and then paste that in to my team chat to see if anyone has any comments that they might want to make. So if someone were to click that, they will go straight to that issue inside 3D Repo. and then they'll be able to comment on it. And so then if we go into that comment, I could start to say that. I could get Bogdan in here and say, what do you think about the still? Still delivery. And then Bogdan will get that notification and he might be able to make changes or add some pictures, or likewise I can add some pictures. So for instance, if I were to add a picture from my desktop here, which maybe is the pad foundations that this needs to be built on top of, I can add that in, and that all becomes part of this commentary. So we've got a kind of live 4D, so we're not just stuck in time, we don't just have a video, we're actually creating an interactive narrative, and we can start to assign things to people, comment on things, and do things like that. So that's one example of how you can use the feature set that we've come up with for 4.10. Another thing I want to do is talk about how we can link things to drawings. And that's not, oh, there we go. So Bogdan's just commented as well. So I'm getting that live update from Bogdan as he's seeing what I'm doing in the comments there. So yeah, the next thing I want to talk about is views and 2D drawings. So as Bogdan said, we've got this new ability to create links from models. So let me just go back to my other federation here. And so one example I've got here of linking drawings to views is I've got a first floor plan here that I've created, and this was just exported from Revit or ArchiCAD or wherever it originated from. And then what I've done is I've added a 3D repo hyperlink in here. So if I click this hyperlink and accept that I'm going to go to an external site, it will take me to a predefined, I apologize, it's open up in Internet Explorer, 1 second. Let me just open it in, make sure it opens in Edge as well. So that will take me to a predefined view that I've set up from the 3D model. So all of a sudden I'm taking my 2D drawing, I've created a context view in the 3D model that relates to it. So in this instance, I've just added a section cut. I've zoomed in on the relevant section of the building so that anyone looking at that drawing that says, I don't quite understand what's going on here, they can click the 3D view and it will take them straight to it. So as another example, I'm going to quickly do a second view of that. So I know that I've got another drawing over here. If I snip back to here, I've got another drawing here, which is my HVAC, first floor HVAC. So I might go back to 3D Repo and say, okay, I know I want to pull this clipping plane up a little bit. Get just below the beams there so I can see the ductwork. There we go. And then I want to add a smart group which uses a rule here, and I've already preset this rule, but where family contains duct, so where the properties of the element has a family name that contains duct. So I've created that group, I've set the color override to blue, I've got that lovely little sort of view there that I think adds detail to this view, and then I create a new view that is called okay, just gotta wait for that to save a second because my internet is being awfully slow, I think, with the streaming at the same time. Okay, so then let's just say I copied that view. I go back to my drawing over here, and then I just insert a maybe add an image that is a 3D Repo logo. And then I just add a hyperlink over the top to my the view that I saved. So now I've got that link set up. And then if I go back to my browser, if I then upload those documents to anywhere from a site, who are a common data environment that we work quite closely with because they have a lot of interesting workflows that they can build upon, and we integrate with 3D Repo so that you can pull your models out from ASI automatically. Those links work there as well. So that 3D Repo link is there, and if I select it, it will open up directly to that view. And then likewise, the same thing is true in Dropbox, for instance, and the same with anything in SharePoint, things like that. So that's how we can use the views in 3D Repo to start communicating things better with the team, because all we're doing is basically setting something up, setting a camera position up and saying, look at this, I want you to look at this particular view, and it really adds a lot more capability to the 3D model than just starting from the external viewpoint every time. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is workflows outside of 3D Repo. So some of you will be using our issue tracking and risk tracking within 3D Repo and those sorts of workflows, but we're also aware that a vast amount of workflows exist on the construction site outside of 3D Repo. That might be your snagging through something like EviFile, or in this case, client feedback. So I've got a list here in SharePoint. So this could be SharePoint, it could be Airtable, it could just be a spreadsheet. And in there, we've started to communicate with the client, and the client has asked, okay, could we create some kind of mural in the entrance wall? And then we've added a 3D Repo link in there, so that when I open that link, again, it takes you to the view of the 3D model of the entrance with all the elements loaded in. So that just adds something better. It's a bit more informative to the client that doesn't really know too much about drawings, and maybe marking up a drawing wouldn't help them in that sense. The other thing we can also do, which we get a lot of comments from people about, is validating things like estimates or programs. So you've created your bill of quantities, and if I skip to my Excel table here, you've created your bill of quantities for the project. You may well have used something along the lines of CostX or CostOS to produce a bill of quantities that is referenced to the model. Now, the big issue there is that the only people who can access that model are people who have access to a CostOS or CostX license. Whereas what we've done here is we've created links to 3D Repo in this bill of quantity. So anyone looking at this bill of quantity and has access to 3D Repo can say, okay, well, there's reinforced concrete there. I see there's a link. I click this link. And once again, I know I'm repeating myself here, but once again, we open up to 3D Repo. We open up to a custom view that we've created, and the slab will be highlighted as soon as it's loaded up. So let's just wait. There we go. So now we've got the model color coded so that anyone who is having a little bit of a hard time understanding what that bill of quantity item was now has some context for it. So that was everything I wanted to talk about with regards to the 4.10 features, and just to start getting people's ideas, minds going around how you could sort of use these tools to start spreading awareness of the 3D model, increase the time to information, or decrease the time to information, sorry, and decrease the cognitive load, which is very important. And one of the biggest benefits of the 3D model is communicating something in 3D becomes a lot easier for someone who's maybe not familiar with the project, or someone who's not familiar with construction drawings to understand. So with that, I will hand back over to Andrew, and he should hopefully have had some of your questions in by now for Bogdan and I.
Yep, brilliant. Thanks very much, Matt. Yeah, we've got a few questions come through. If you do have any, get them in now. We've probably got about 4 or 5 that we'll go through, but we've probably got a bit more time. So if you do have some, put them in. So Matt, the first one was that, assuming you're sending these hyperlinks to various clients, do they need a 3D Repo license in order to be able to visualize the information on the platform still?
That's a good question. So yes, they will, but one of the benefits of 3D Repo is that we do promote our project-based pricing. So what that means is, as long as you pay for a whole project, anyone involved in the delivery of that project will get access, or will be allowed to gain access to that site if you provide them a login. So yes, they will need access, but the more people you want access on a project, the less the license per user is.
Yeah. Probably another thing to mention that we do also have another product built on the platform specifically for that type of thing in Planbase. which is more for the kind of more general public feedback, right, to the model.
Yes, absolutely. So if anyone wants to go up on YouTube or on our website and search for Planbase, there's a good webinar that we did with the Mayor's Office, Greater London Authority, that goes through the sort of public-facing 3D repo application called Planbase. So yeah, that'd be really interesting if anyone's interested in that.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, a lot of the questions seem to be based around the views. Can they be created via the API as well?
Yep, great. Yeah, I didn't talk too much about the APIs during my demo, but everything that I showed you during that demo is also available through our APIs. So you can produce a view if you know a camera angle, or if you have an existing view that has the right camera angle that you want, or you just pick the default camera angle. You can then use the groups, rules, tools, or highlight based on the IFC GUID to highlight elements in different colors, set the camera position, and then produce the URL from that without ever having to open 3D Repo. So if you are a architectural technologist and you're using something like Dynamo to push models from Revit, you could take the planes that the drawings exist on and automatically create 3D Repo views for every drawing location, for every schedule that you've produced, and then populate that back into your schedules or your drawings in Revit. So you could, if you wanted to, get very, very clever and automate things are produced.
Is there a limit to the number of views that can be created?
No, so you can create as many different views in as many different federations as you want. So one of the benefits of 3D Repo is that you've got an unlimited number of federations that you can create, which are kind of almost like a save as, so that if you've got a particular scenario you want to run, you can create a federation, and then within that federation you can create as many views as you want that you can then share with the team.
Yeah, and along the same lines, what about revisions? How do revisions interact with the views that have been created?
May have lost them, maybe.
Yeah, I think we might have lost him there. So the question was, how do views interact with revisions, Bogdan? So they're tied to the revision they're in, right?
Yes, they are, but also obviously some of the views that are defined by just camera position, you can also get the same view across multiple revisions. So if you want to just track, let's say, a specific area of the model over time, you can just jump to that view and then see how it progresses over time, and even use tools like 3D diff as well to see where the changes are happening as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, one really interesting question we've got here that hopefully Matt gets back on for, but I'll start trying to answer it, is what happens when the model and all of the information in it, what happens to the model and all the information in it when the project ends? So it's quite a good point. So with 3D Repo, all of your information that you've submitted is your information. So at the end of the project, obviously, we'd love it if you carried on using it and handed it over to the client as a carried on way of maintaining and looking at the BIM model. If not, obviously all that information is downloadable via the API. So you can take all of that information down into a JSON file. You could transfer it to another database. Your models are all downloadable again, so they're stored in the native file format that you uploaded them in. So you can get all of that information back, as well as the again binary JSON information that we store. So the raw data is still there, and you can do it anyway. Matt, are you back?
Yes, I am back. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that was just a really interesting question that someone had about what happens to the model and the information at the end of the project. So I've said obviously you can retrieve it all via the API and get all the native models back when you need to. But if there's anything else you want to add to that one?
Well, I think the other thing as well is that because we're using the Unity game engine and we create Unity assets, and the APIs then refer to elements of the game engine, you could, and some of our clients have created their own tools where they download an entire game of the project so that it can run as an executable, essentially, independent of the internet or the project. As long as you've got a computer, you can sort of run the archive.
Mm-hmm. Cloud storage is limited or unlimited, either. is the answer to that. So our higher end enterprise licenses are unlimited in storage, but obviously we do offer limited versions as well, so people can keep the cost down. But yeah, all of those are options. Okay, I think that's it. Oh no, it might be. Are we able to mark up and raise issues in 2D drawings? The answer to that within 3D Repo is no, although I believe we're looking at some integrations at the moment. Is that right, Matt?
Yeah, it's definitely something that's on our roadmap. We want to continue to be the best at 3D, and obviously we accept that some of the people such as A-Site and Procore and everything really excel at 2D, so we're trying to figure out how we best dovetail in so that we don't double up on features for people.
Yeah. Okay, I think that brings us to the end of the webinar. I'm pretty well timed as well, guys. I think we said 45 minutes, so we're even 2 minutes back of your day. As I said before, this is all recorded, so the recorded version will get sent out to you guys when it's all been processed. If you do have any follow-up questions or have some specific use cases you want to discuss with us, please do get in touch. Best probably to send it to support@3drepo.com or contact any three of us via our personal emails as well. If you have them, it's fine. But for now, thanks very much for attending, and we look forward to hopefully using 3D Repo again soon. Thanks very much. Cheers, Matt. Cheers, Bogdan.
Thank you. Bye.